Hello, and welcome to the MyHeritage webinar series. I'm Jeff Rasmussen, your host, broadcasting to you live from webinar headquarters in Middleton, Idaho. Today we have Ran Sneer, who is with us live in Tel Aviv, Israel, for his class Suggested Relationship Paths, an inside look at the Theory of Family Relativity. This was announced at RootsTech just a couple of weeks ago and was the big talk of the conference, and, well, it still is. So thanks to Ran and thanks to all of you for registering for today's live webinar, wherever and whenever you are. So glad to have you with us. I hope this is now on your calendars for this September. If you've ever wanted to visit Amsterdam, here's your chance to do that and to take in a genealogy conference at the same time. The second annual MyHeritage Live will be held September 6th through 8th, so more information or to register is available up at live2019.myheritage.com, and I'll see you there. And now I'd like to formally introduce today's speaker, Ran Sneer. As product manager, Ran is responsible for MyHeritage DNA products. He leads a talented team of developers, QA engineers, and designers to create and optimize DNA users' entire journey from ordering a DNA kit, tracking the kit's progress, receiving results, to leveraging a continually growing suite of features to make the most of the DNA results in genealogical research. He led the development of the Chromosome Browser for shared DNA segments, and most recently the development of the brand new Theory of Family Relativity and the new AutoClusters features. So please put together your virtual hands and let's give Ran Sneer a nice warm webinar welcome. Ran, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hey Jeff, it's going great. Thanks for having me again.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it's my third time, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Ran, it was good to see you at RootsTech. Yeah. Yeah, RootsTech was quite the show, wasn't it? And DNA was talked everywhere there.
I absolutely agree.
Boy, that was lots of fun. Well, also lots of fun will be learning from you here today. So this new Theory of Family Relativity, I'm real anxious to get the inside scoop on this today. So Ran, your screen looks really good, and the time's all yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. Hi, everybody. It's great, as I said, being here. Hopefully you can see everything. And I think let's start. All right, so for today, the main topic obviously will be the theory of family relativity, which, as Jeff said, we've released a couple of weeks ago. But I thought to give some good introduction to the feature, we'll start by a short product overview. We'll talk about the different things that exist today on the website, on MyHeritage. For those who have taken a DNA test. Then we'll deep dive into the theory of family relativity and talk a little bit more about that. What is it, how you can use it, how you can leverage the data and information that you see there. And because it's such a hot topic these days, we've also at RootsTech, we've released our new feature, AutoClusters. So I'll give a couple of words about that. Hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions. And once we're done with my presentation, obviously we'll open it up for questions, which I'll be more than happy to answer. All right. So let's start with the product overview. We'll focus today more about matches. In previous sessions, I've spoken about the ethnicity estimate and other aspects of the DNA world at MyHeritage. So we'll speak more about DNA matches today because it also correlates and goes hand in hand with the theory of family relativity and the AutoClusters. So if you've taken a DNA test with MyHeritage, or if you have uploaded from a different company, we support uploads from other companies. If you have already tested, you're more than welcome to come and upload them to MyHeritage. Once your results are ready, you will get your list of DNA matches. As you can see here, I will mostly use my own results today for the presentation. So this is how the page looks like. And let's go a little bit deeper. So I use this example all the time. I'm not getting tired of Mr. Homer Simpson. So he's going to be my match today. So one of my matches is Homer Simpson. So let's see what we can tell you about every DNA match. So at the top left corner, we're telling you the name, the age, and the location where this person is from. And there's also a quick way to contact the person if you want to start a conversation. Next to it, we're showing you the estimated relationships, which are based on the DNA match quality. So in this case, we've estimated Homer Simpson to be my first cousin twice removed to a third cousin, and that is because of the amount of shared DNA and the number of shared segments that we have. So you can see to the right that me and Homer are sharing 102 centimorgans, which translate into 1.4% of our DNA, which is similar. And that's why the estimated relationship is what we show here. If you're not really sure what a first cousin twice removed to a third cousin is and what are the different options that exist in this range, you can always click that question mark icon. And once you'll do that, a chart will open up showing you where you are on the chart and where this DNA match can be based on the amount of DNA that the two of you share. So here we can see the first cousin twice removed till the third cousin, and those who the possible options are highlighted in purple to make it a little bit easier. At the bottom of the DNA match card, on the bottom, you can see some genealogical information that we were able to pull from Homer's tree and from my tree. That can give us some hints and clues as to how me and Homer are related. So the first we say is that Homer appears in a family tree with 877 people, which is managed by Marge Simpson, and she's from the US. So we can see that Homer and Marge have built a decent family tree. And we can also point out that both in Homer's tree and in my tree, there are surnames, ancestral surnames that are common. In this case, we have the Bloom, Olivenbaum, Rosenstein, and 4 more. We'll see them more on that in a second. We are also indicating that the family tree that Homer is in has 237 smart matches with my tree. For those who are not familiar with the concept of smart matches, these are individuals that exist in my tree and exist also in Homer's tree. So we believe that there are 237 individuals that exist in both trees. We are also emphasizing here that there are ancestral places who are common to both me and Homer, and here we've indicated Israel, Bulgaria, and 3 more places. And we'll go over these in a second in a little bit more depth. At the top right corner, there's a gray icon. At the moment, it's gray, and this icon is used to write some notes as you go with your research. If you've discovered something interesting or you want to put something for later, you can click on that icon and the notes will open up so that you can put something here. You can always edit those, remove them as you go, and they will be available. Once you've provided the note, the icon will turn purple to indicate that you've already filled in some information. All right, so let's get back. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the DNA match page. So we're giving you the options to filter your list of DNA matches by different criterias. When you'll get your results on MyHeritage, you'll be flooded with thousands of DNA matches in most cases. Here I have 10,266, and filters are a great way to work with your list of DNA matches to see who you want to start with now and who you want to keep for later. So in the first category, all tree details, we have those options that we just saw on the card with Homer. So I can filter to see only the DNA matches who has a family tree, those who have shared surnames, with whom I have a shared surname, or smart matches. The second category are the relationships, and here you can choose to filter your list by how close they are to you. What's the relationship proximity? As we saw with Homer, he was my first cousin twice removed to a third cousin. So here we broke it down to 3 different categories, so you can filter to see your close family first, your extended family, and your distant relatives. Next, you can choose where in the world your matches are from. So let's say, for example, that I'm now researching my family, my roots in Germany. So I can open this drop-down and choose Germany from this list, and I will only be left with the matches who are currently living in Germany. so I can look at my side of the family that came from that part of the world. The fourth and last one is the option to filter your list by different ethnicity results. Now note that these are their ethnicity results, all right? So for example, if I'll open this and I'll choose Iberian, for example, I will be left with only the DNA matches who have Iberian in their own results. So that's also interesting if I'm trying to research part of my family or something that I didn't think, an ethnicity that I didn't expect to belong to or to have in my results, I can also look it up here. Another way to work with your list of DNA matches is sorting the list differently. We're giving several options. By default, the option to sort your list is sorted by default from your closest matches to the distant ones. So as you can see, my dad appears here at the top. But you can also choose to to sort your list by the number of shared segments that you have, the largest segment, by their name, or by most recent, to see who are the DNA matches that were recently added to your list. We have people testing all the time with MyHeritage, and as more people are tested, you will get more and more DNA matches. So if you want to look at the ones that were recently added, this is a really good and useful option to do that. Last but not least, we have the option to search. So you can click on the icon here, and you'll be given a search bar to type in a name or an ancestral surname. So name is pretty straightforward. I can look for matches that go by certain name, but ancestral surname is also very helpful because if, for example, now I'm researching my ancestors on the Bloom side, I can type here Bloom, and I will get not only the matches with Bloom in their names, but also people who have Bloom in their ancestors' names. All right. So now that we've covered this, we can move to the Review DNA Match page and see a little bit more information about a specific match. I'm going to use for this the example of my cousin. And we're showing you here different types of information about a specific DNA match, and we'll go over them one by one to explain what you see. So the first, if they exist, I'm using the example of my cousin Tomer, as I mentioned. So here what we see first when we go to the review match page with Tomer is that we have 221 smart matches in my tree and in his. In this case, I can see my grandmother's cousin and others, so I can look at these individuals and decide whether they are really the same people, and if they are, that's a very good indication, or that can be a very good starting point to understand how me and Tomer are related. Next, we have the shared ancestral surnames. So these are, again, as we saw in the example with Homer, these are surnames that my ancestors have in my tree and Tomer also have. So we can see here in the first box the Blooms, and then afterwards the Carmens, and we can see whether the same people exist. You can see that even though me and Tomer have spelled names a bit differently, like with the Ilya example here at the last one, we can still look and see that those are both Carmens and they're just spelled differently, probably the same individual. So what we saw just now was an example of when there are shared surnames, but as you know, in many examples there aren't. And even in that case, we'll present you a list of the surnames that exist in the other person's tree. So this is an example from another match, Stuart, and on the left side I can see all the surnames that all my ancestral surnames from my tree, and on the right we can see his. This is useful because sometimes people are spelling names a bit differently or typing them in different languages, so we can look at those and decide for ourselves maybe there is something interesting here, or maybe just we didn't fill in all the information in our tree, but we know that there is, for example, a Gornitsky. I have an ancestor with the name of Gornitsky, so this is why it's also useful to look at that. Scrolling down, we'll see the Ancestral Places. This is one of the recent additions to this page, was added around December of last year. So here we're showing places in the world where I have events from, my ancestors have events from, and Tomer's ancestors have events from. So here we can see that I have 5 shared ancestral places with Tomer. We have Bulgaria, Israel, Romania, Russia, and Turkey at the top left of the map. And we can see those pins that indicate where those events took place. By ancestral events, we're referring to birth and death facts that people have put in their trees. So we can see that both me and Tomer have events. Now we're focusing on Bulgaria, and we can see that we both have events in Sofia, the capital, and also in Varna at the top right corner. The purple color indicates that there is an exact location, meaning that there is an event that happened in the same city or region and not only the country. In some cases, like here, when I moved to Russia, we can see that I have 4 ancestral events that took place in Moscow, Russia, and Tomer had events in Russia, but not in Moscow. He had them, this is my event in Chelyabinsk. So when there's no exact match, we're indicating a pin, but using the more gray color, so that you can differentiate when there is an event on your side and on his that took place in the same city, and when it's just on the country level. Shared ancestral places are shown for countries and for US states. Next in the list, we have the shared DNA matches, and this will return later on in the presentation. Shared DNA matches are people who I have on my DNA matches list, and the DNA match I'm currently looking at also has on his. So for example, if I'm looking at my match with Tomer, and looking at the people shown here, I can see my mom, and I can see my aunt, her sister, and my daughter and brother, but the people I don't see here is anyone from my paternal side, and I've tested quite a few of them. So if I see that, I can probably assume for now, let's say that I didn't know how Tomer and I are related, but because I see people from my maternal side only, I can assume that Tomer is related to me through that line. So this is useful when there's not a lot of genealogical data. Below it, we will show you a pedigree chart. This is a pedigree chart of how Elon is Tomer's brother. So here we see Elon's pedigree chart, which lets us quickly review his ancestors. So I can go over them, and each one of them is clickable and will provide more information, years and places of events, for example, so that I can look for myself and see if any of the names ring a bell or looks familiar. Below it, we'll have the shared ethnicities. This is mostly useful, as you can see from my results on the left column. I'm about 96% Jewish Ashkenazi because both my parents are Jewish Ashkenazi. But if, for example, I knew my mom was Italian and my father was Iberian, and I didn't have a lot of genealogical information to work with from my side or from my DNA matches side, by looking at his ethnicity results, if I see that he's Italian or Iberian, I can also make an assumption of which line of the family we are related from. Last on the page, we're showing you a nice tool that we have, the Chromosome Browser. We're very proud of it. The Chromosome Browser is a tool that lets you visually see where those shared segments that you have with your DNA match are located on the chromosome. So there are 22 autosomal chromosomes, and those purple bars, those purple areas on the chromosomes are actually where those shared segments exist, and that can be used later for trying to identify other matches and understanding how groups of matches are related to one another. But that's a topic for, I think, a webinar of its own. We have that was the review match page, and the chromosome browser that we saw now shows you on a one-to-one basis where are the shared segments. But another great tool that we have is the chromosome browser one-to-many, which we have on the website, that lets you select up to 7 of your DNA matches and compare them simultaneously all together and see if they're all having a shared segment, a triangulated segment as we call it. So in this case, I took, for example, my father and my grandmother, his mother, and I've compared them. And when I did that, I saw that there are 25 triangulated segments. Triangulated segments, very briefly, are segments that when you see that there is a triangulated segment, it basically means that all the people that you have selected are matching one another, and they're also all matching each other on the same exact location. So when we're talking about DNA and the way that we inherit segments from our ancestors, when a triangulated segment exists, that probably means that we had a common ancestor that can say that we had all of us have a common ancestor, and we've all inherited the same segment from him. So that's very useful to look choosing multiple DNA matches and looking at all of them at the same time. And if you see that you have a triangulated segment, one or more, that can indicate to a common ancestor that you all have. All right. So that was a quick overview of the product. And now we'll move to talk about the theory of family relativity, which is the reason we all gathered here for today. So as we said, as Jeff introduced, and we spoke a little bit in the beginning, we launched this feature about 2 weeks ago at RootsTech, and the responses are amazing. We thought that we should have a webinar as fast as possible to talk about it and present and hopefully show you some of the great things that you can do with it. And I think that the best way to describe and explain what the theory of family relativity is by using an example. And I think that it will also take all of the things that I've spoken about for the past 15 minutes or so, and will probably make the message a little bit clearer. So let's assume for a second that what we're looking at now is a tree, but it's not my family tree. It's the biggest tree that we can come up with. It's a tree that connects all of mankind to one another by a huge chain of connections. And in that big tree of the world that we want to build, that we want to have, where we can have everyone connected to everybody, this purple in a square indicates my contribution to the world tree, to the big tree of the world. This is my family tree on MyHeritage. This branch is what I was able to contribute. This is the information that I know. This is what I've built. And let's assume that there is another person on MyHeritage, and he also built a tree, and his tree is overlapping with my tree to some extent. Maybe it's just one person, right, that exists both in my tree and on his. And these are exactly those smart matches that we spoke about before, those people that we believe are the same, those individuals who we believe are the same people that exist in one tree and in the other. So if we kind of follow this logic and we take together not just one and two trees, but multiple trees and multiple data points, and try and build that network that connects them to one another, we can get to that concept. We can have that concept of a big tree come to life. And this is what we've been trying to do. This is what we've been working on for the past year or so, I'd say, and trying to take all of the data points that we have on MyHeritage and build that big tree of humanity, if you want. And we've succeeded doing that. So on MyHeritage today, there are more than 9.5 billion historical records. There are about 45 million family trees with 3.4 billion profiles of individuals in them. So we took all that information, we took all these data points, all these details that we could, and we've put them all together, and we ran our smart algorithms run and the technology that we developed to do that, to create that network which connects all these data points to one another, and that allowed us to come up with the theory of family relativity. And let's see how it looks. Because up till now we were talking in a high level of how we were trying, what we were trying to do, and where we were trying to get. And now I'll try to present how this comes into life and to real use cases, real life cases for people who have taken a DNA test. And let's see how it looks. So here we have Roman, my friend Roman, and he's tested on MyHeritage, and he got his DNA matches. And one of these matches is Emilia, that you can see here, Emilia Perevalova. And up till today, we were able to provide, we gave Emilia's age, and we were able to give an estimated relationship based on the DNA match quality, as we discussed before. And Emilia appears in a family tree with around 400 people, which is managed by Jim Smith. And that is all the information we could have provided up till now. because there was no information in Emilia's tree and in Roman's tree that looked similar. There were no shared surnames or places or smart matches. So this is all the information that we're able to provide Roman with. But with the theory of family relativity, now that we have the big tree and we have Roman's individual in his tree and Emilia's individual in her tree, we can try to look in various data points, not just their two trees and look for resemblance, but in all of the trees on MyHeritage and all of the records and collections. And when we did that, we were able to come up with a theory that suggests that Emilia is Roman's second cousin once removed, according to the theory of family relativity. Note that we also mentioned here that there is one more potential theory, and we'll get to that in a second. But let's start with the review DNA match page and see now what we can tell Roman, given that there's a theory. So when Roman will open the review match page with Emilia, a new component will be shown to him, the component showing the theory of family relativity. And let's zoom in for a second to see it a little bit better. So here we can see that for Roman and Emilia, we were able to find two theories that may explain how they are related to one another. Theory 1 suggests that Emilia is Roman's second cousin once removed on his mother's side. And there's an option to switch a theory. And if Roman will click on that, he will see that there's indeed an additional theory that suggests that she can also be his third cousin from his father's side. Now, the reason that sometimes this kind of thing happen is because people could be related from various family lines, ancestral lines. This happens a lot with endogamy population, for example, and also because the information that was provided in one or the two theories suggests differently. So we are providing this to the user so that he can see for himself, go over the theories and decide which one makes more sense, if not both. Now let's look at what we show here. So here on the bottom left we have Roman, and on the bottom right we have Emilia. So again, these are the DNA matches. Roman is our user using the website at the moment, and Emilia is one of his DNA matches. And we can see here that we were able to find a theory that, if we're looking at it from the eyes of Roman, goes through his mother, Caroline, to his grandfather Kip, to his great-grandfather Eliza, and goes all the way up to who we believe are their common ancestors, Alexander and Margaret. When we're trying to get back to Emilia, we see that there's a John Collison, who is the brother of Eliza, Roman's great-grandmother. And John had a son, Darren, and Darren is the father of Emilia. And this is how we think that they are related. So this is great. But obviously you want to see a little bit more information and decide for yourself whether that makes sense or not. So you can hover over which one of these individuals and get a little bit more information even before you deep dive. So here we can see Margaret, which was born Solomon. We can see the relationship to both him and Emilia and some birth and death facts. But let's deep dive into that now. At the top right corner, there is a button to view the full theory. And if we'll click on that, we will get to a completely different new page that we've launched that shows you exactly what are those data points, on what information or details we relied when we came up with this theory that should suggest that they are second cousin once removed. So here at the top, we're giving you again the option to switch a theory and look at the second one, which suggested that they are third cousins. And also for each one of the theories, in some cases, we'll be able to find more than one path. So just to distinguish and explain, a theory is what we call a genealogical signature. So a second cousin once removed is one theory, and a third cousin is a second theory. However, for each one of these theories, there could be multiple paths that we could take that suggest the same theory. So either we went through different sources, different family trees or records. Those will be presented in the different paths. So if one doesn't make too much sense, you can move to the second or the third and look at those to see if more information maybe was provided, such as birth or death facts and things like that. But let's start. Let's zoom in, and now I'm at the bottom. I'm at the bottom left corner of the theory, and let's see how we were able to figure that out. So we started with Roman's own tree, the tree that Roman built on MyHeritage, that he's also managing, and we climbed up, and we went from Roman to his mother to his grandfather Kip, and then what happened is that we made a jump. We jumped from Kip on his side to a Kip on a Collison website that is managed by Laura Collison from Australia. That can happen. One of the reasons that this could happen is that Roman only provided information about his grandfather and then he stopped. Either he knows more or he doesn't, but that is the information that we had on MyHeritage. So we found a smart match between his tree and that other tree. So if we'll zoom for a second on the top there, so we're talking about the Collison website, and you can always hover over that name to get a little bit more information, such as how many people exist in the tree on that site, when was it last updated, and there's also a hyperlink so that you can go and view the tree and decide for yourself whether the information there makes sense or not. You can also contact the manager of the site to get more information. All right. So we decided that Kip Solomon in Roman's tree is the same Kip Solomon in Laura's tree from Australia. Laura's from Australia. So you can see that green indication with the score of 100%. That green symbol indicates that this is a smart match between the individual in the first tree and the second. You can click on that, and once you do that, we will give you a nice side-by-side comparison between the information that we have from Kip in the first tree and the information that we have on the second tree. So now you can review for yourself and decide whether this smart match makes sense. In addition to the percentage, the confidence percentage that we provide, this can be useful so that you can, again, decide for yourself. So, I'm sorry. So here, for example, we can see that while Roman provided a birth date that is circa 1894, on Laura's site it was set as 1894. Most of the information here looks exactly the same. We can see that the death place was spelled differently a little bit. Roman wrote New York, and Kip used, and Laura used NY. But there are some additional information, such as the father and mother that Laura provided that didn't exist in Roman, while Roman had the wife and children. So we can look for ourselves and decide whether this makes sense or not. All right, so now we're on Laura's tree. And we are, another option before we keep climbing up the tree is hovering over a person in the full theory page, as we call it. And then you will also be able to see some information about the birth and death facts, but there are also quick links that will take you either to view these people in the tree, to view their profile, or to search records on these specific individuals. So that's also useful when you're reviewing a theory, trying to make a decision whether the information makes sense or not. Okay, so from Kip we went up to Ellis, and then we went all the way up till Alexander and Margaret. And here we stopped. We didn't go up, as we believe that these are the common ancestors of Roman and Emilia, our DNA match, how we started this. So we started going down, and Ellis had a brother, John. And then we made another jump. We went from our Laura's site, the Collison site, to another site, the Perevalova website, which is managed by a user named Jacqueline from Great Britain. We were able to find another John Collison Jr. who exists in the two trees, and we believe are the same people. And again, you can use the smart match indication here to get, again, the side-by-side comparison and see the information, or you can hover over these individuals to see more information. We went, John had a son, Darren, and then we made our final jump, another smart match that we found between Darren on the Perevalova website and on the Smith's website, which is managed by Emilia, our DNA match. So now we're finally on Emilia's tree, and we're looking at her father, and there we're looking at her. So this is the full theory that we were able to find that connects these, Roman and Emilia, and explains how they are related. Let's look at another example. So here we're looking at a Julian, a Roman, and a match of his, who's a Julian Gruber. And here we can see that there are two paths, and as you can see, between the different sources here, there's the green object, the green icon that we saw before on the right with a 95% confidence, but there are also brown indications when we make the jump from the first source to the second source and from the second source to the third source. These indications, the brown indications, are for record matches. So here we didn't use MyHeritage family trees, we used other sources. And there are a couple of those that were worth emphasizing here. So we're using the MyHeritage family trees, of course, as we've seen before, but we're also using tons of collections that we have, census records, and newspapers, for example, newspaper articles are also used every now and then. And also our huge database of records of family trees from FamilySearch and Geni that are also available on MyHeritage are also used for the algorithm. So we're taking all of these data points together and we're trying to come up with the theory that may explain how the two people are related. And that's exactly what happened here. So we can see that, again, we started with Roman and we went up to his mother Nishan, and then we made a jump to a record on FamilySearch family tree that also had Nishan Solomon, and that went all the way up and then made, a jump again to a Tenorio website managed by Jacqueline. I'm sorry. So we can see how sometimes we're using only MyHeritage trees. Sometimes we use both MyHeritage trees and census records, for example, and sometimes we use the FamilySearch or the Geni records. Like I showed you before, for a website, for a family site on MyHeritage, there's also an option to click on a record collection, and that will give you the option to search this collection specifically or to view the record of each one of these individuals below by clicking on them. Here's another example showing how we use the United States Federal Census. So here we took a user, Ashley Curry, and her mom in her tree is Barbara Larson. And we found Barbara Larson also on a United States Federal Census record. So we jumped to the record, and then we went up to her parents, and there you can see that we made another jump to a different source, either a tree or a record on MyHeritage. So all these types of information are very useful, and that is, I think, the main reason we were able to come up with so many theories, so that because we're relying on different data sources, either information that people have filled in manually or information that we were able to gather from our big database of records. This is a nice example, which I really like. In all of the examples, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, in all of the examples I've shown in my presentations that are not specific to me, I had to change the names and images of the people to keep their privacy and not share their information. But these are real live examples of theories that we were able to find and provide our users with. So just the names are a bit different, but the sources are all correct. Here is a really nice example that I like. We start here on the left with a family tree on MyHeritage, the Jensen family tree, and then we make a jump to a Geni World family tree record, go all the way up, then make a jump to an 8051 Canada census, then make another jump to a FamilySearch family tree. We go down, we jump to a Geni record, and we end up in another MyHeritage family tree. So you can see how all these data points are brought together and are being used by one another, so that we can present the users, we can provide our users with as much information as we can, as detailed information as we can, and give them the option to review the theories themselves. Now, I think it's a good time to make a couple of minutes stop and talk about how to use this information, because there's been a lot of comments about that on social media, and we're getting various types of feedbacks on it. And there are a couple of things to take into consideration when you're looking at the theories of family relativity that we were able to find. The first and maybe the most important is, and I really like the way we emphasized it in the name, these are theories. Like any genealogical work that you do, always take everything with a bit of skepticism, or at least like try to think of them as suggestions, as recommendations, as hints, as matches, but look at the information for yourselves. A lot of people are feeling information which is inaccurate sometimes. Sometimes they don't know the truth, and sometimes the truth is different than what they know. So that is why we decided to call it also the Theory of Family Relativity, because we wanted to suggest potential ways for users to review their DNA matches and to try and come up with better estimations as to how they are related. So it's really good looking at them. As you can see, and I think one of the best things about this feature is that you're no longer dependent on your tree and on the other side tree. We're going through all of the data points here, all of the data sets that we have. Every information that was added to MyHeritage over the years can be used. So review them, contact the people who have added them or managing the trees, look at the records, and decide for yourself whether things make it right or wrong. In some of the cases, even if the theory is not what you think it is, you think that it is wrong, it is showing wrong information. Even in those cases, we've seen many scenarios in which even looking at the partial path and looking at additional relatives that were recommended to people or that we went through was adding a lot of information to people and was able to help them grow their trees and learn more about their past. So that is also a great way of utilizing this information here. And I think that we're ready to move forward. So how do you find your theories? How do you know if you have your theories? So for an introduction period of time, for the first month or so from the launch of the product, there's a very nice purple banner that shows on your DNA matches page when you'll open it, indicating that we were able to find theories for your DNA matches. And afterwards, and even before, you can always click to filters your list, as I've shown before in the beginning. And when you'll open your first category, the all tree details, there'll be a new option to filter the list by those with whom you have a theory of family relativity. All right. Before I move forward, I want to say that we were able to find the great thing about the theory of family relativity is that it will continue to develop as time goes by. So even if we weren't able to find a theory at the moment, or some of the information looks inaccurate and you've made some changes, the great thing here is that all the time people are building family trees on MyHeritage, and all the time more DNA matches are added to our system, and we have millions and millions of records added to MyHeritage. And every time we're going to calculate these paths, these theories, as new theories will come up, and we'll be able to explain how more DNA matches are related to you. So this is constantly improving as people provide more information, and more information will be provided to you as a result of that. Next, I want to move to our second announcement on RootStack, the AutoClusters. Also a feature we worked on very hard. I'm very happy to introduce. And I'll start by explaining how to get to the AutoClusters report. So we've added a new tab to your DNA results, tools. You can click on that. And once you'll do that, the page will refresh to show you the different tools we have on MyHeritage. On the left, you can see the Chromosome Browser, one too many, that is widely used. And in the center with the new badge on the top left, you can see the AutoClusters. And once you'll click on the Explore button, you'll get to the page which will allow you to generate the report. So if you're managing a kit for a DNA kit for more than one person on MyHeritage, you can change that from the drop down. And if not, you can generate results for your clusters for yourself. And once you'll click the Generate button, we will start working on your AutoClusters. And once they're ready, they'll be sent to you via email so that you can review them also offline and continue your research offline and not only on the website. So you've generated your results, you received the email. In the email, there'll be 3 files. One of them will be a README PDF that explains a little bit about what are AutoClusters and what results are included in your specific report. There'll be a CSV file that shows raw data, and there'll be an HTML file, and when you'll open that, this is what you'll see. You will see your AutoCluster report, and when the page will load, it will start by looking like this, but automatically within seconds, the AutoClusters, the matches in the AutoClusters will readjust and sort themselves in a way so that you can look at them in groups. But what are AutoClusters aside of all these colors that you see on the screen right now? AutoClusters are a way for us to group together DNA matches who we believe, or we have indications that each group could be related to you from one specific ancestral line. And I'll explain how it works. So what we do here is that first we look at your DNA matches. All right, so these are my DNA matches. And then for each one of these DNA matches, we are taking the shared DNA matches that you have with him or her. So once we have that big list of all the DNA matches and the shared DNA matches that you have with each one of them, we run our algorithms to try and see who is matching who, like trying to group them together into clusters where the majority of the people of the DNA matches in the cluster are all matching one another. If they're all matching one another, that could be potentially an indication that they're all related to you through a specific ancestor. Let's go back to the results and I'll try to explain it a little bit better. So here we look at one of the AutoClusters report that we worked on for a specific user. On the top, and let's zoom in for a second on the first one, on cluster number 1. Here on the right side, you can see the cluster numbers and how many members, how many DNA matches ended up in each cluster. And let's look for a second and let's zoom in and see what we have here. So here we're looking at cluster number 1. And as you can see at the top, the X and the Y axis are showing you the names of the DNA matches. So they are sorted when the report is sorted by cluster number. You can see that the person in column 1 in the first column is the same person as in the first row, second column with the second row, etc. These are the same people. So we're showing you a list of DNA matches on the X and the Y axis. And the colored cells are indicating that there's a shared DNA match between you and those 2 individuals. We're looking here in groups of trios, right? So for example, if I'll take this cell, I hope you can see my cursor, we can see right here that Annalise and Carson and you are all matching each other. There is a shared DNA match. If I'll open my review match page with Carson, I'll see Annalise in the list of shared DNA matches. And the same thing for Annalise, of course. So what the algorithm does is that it takes all of the DNA matches and all of the shared DNA matches and trying to look who is related to who. And who shares DNA with whom, and group them together in that format. So in this example, for when I looked at it the first time, I saw that there are 3 people by the name of Weiss. So if I can understand how I am related to these 3 individuals as an example, and I know, let's say that they're all related to me from my great-grandfather from my father's side, I can make an assumption that the rest of the individuals here are also related to me through the same line because they're matching one another. The reason that sometimes you don't see a colored cell is because there's no shared DNA match, but our thresholds allowed us still to group them all together because they were matching the majority, the rest of the DNA matches in the cluster, in the group. When you'll scroll below the graphical chart at the top, you will see a table view showing the information that we showed above. So you can see here cluster 1 again, the name of the people repeat. Let's zoom in for a second. So we can see that in cluster 1 we have Carson, and we have Annalise, and we have Catherine. And for each one of them, we're indicating how many centimorgans are shared, what is the largest centimorgans, how many segments, how many people they have in common in the group, which cluster they belong to, and we're also telling you whether they have a tree on MyHeritage and how many individuals appear in that tree. If you've added notes, as I showed in my first example with Homer, these will show up here. So this is how notes can also be very useful. So if you've made your research and you've tagged some matches and you've added notes saying, I'm related to this person through ancestor Y, for example, this will appear here and will make your life much shorter. So the tree column and the name column are both hyperlinks. So if I'll click on Carson, for example, I will get immediately to my review DNA match page with him. And if I'll click on the number 3 here, I will be taken to his tree. So I can look there and I can see how I'm maybe how I'm related to Carson, what other surnames are there or places. So I can use both hyperlinks to try and understand how 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 people in cluster are related to me. And that can give me a good hint as to how the other people in the clusters are related to one another. The reason that we're grouping them together is because now by making a discovery or have a better understanding how one of the matches in the group is related to you, that provides you a lot, this sheds more light on how the others in the group can also be related to you. So that was in a nutshell about AutoClusters. There's a dedicated webinar planned for April, I believe. Specifically about AutoClusters, so we'll deep dive into that in a couple of weeks from now. I will repeat what Jeff said. We're having our second user conference this year in the beautiful city of Amsterdam in the Netherlands between the 6th and the 8th of September. You're more than welcome to join us. We had our first user conference last year in Oslo, Norway. I believe most of the talks are available on the website for viewing. So that'll be great to see you there. And thank you very much. Jeff, I'm bringing it back to you, and then we can open it up for questions.
And thank you, Rand. The audience is, well, according to the chat log here that I'm viewing, they loved every minute of this. So we all have matches. We all have genetic relatives, and we're always wondering, how does this match me? And this theory of family relativity, it really begins to answer these questions. And my personal feeling is this is the next major breakthrough in finding our ancestors. And so well done to you and to everyone that's involved in this. This really is an exciting thing. One comment here. Yeah, Edward, and I believe Edward is in Poland. Edward writes in saying, so far I've been skeptical about the usefulness of DNA in the search for family relationships. Now I see the great usefulness of this research in discovering links between families from different trees, especially if they have the same surname, and so on. And Rand, there's been lots of comments in here about that very thing, where people are writing in that, now I understand how this all fits in. So it is exciting. I mean, I am honestly excited about this. We do have lots of good questions in here, and I've marked them to be asked of Rand in our QA part of this webinar. But first, I'm going to switch over to my computer and let's do a couple of door prizes, and then we'll conclude with the questions that you might have. So our next live MyHeritage webinar is coming up in 2 weeks on the 26th. This will be by Mike Mansfield on following your family's immigration trail on MyHeritage. And in fact, there's another one before that. Tomorrow afternoon, if you speak Swedish, which I think it's called Svenska. Now I'm 25% from Sweden, and but
Svenska is right.
But I have no idea how to understand it. But
right.
So we've got we're doing a foreign language webinar like that every month, and this month it just happens to be in the Swedish language. So if you want to be a part of that tomorrow, we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, so door prize time. We're gonna do a 1 year MyHeritage complete plan, and we're gonna do a MyHeritage DNA kit. Now, as we introduce this, Ran, one of the common questions from the audience was about is there a subscription level or some kind of a purchase that has to occur for a person to receive results for the theory of family relativity?
So the theory of family relativity is a paid feature, and the way it works is that if we were able to find a theory, we will indicate it to everyone. You will be able to filter it, you'll get a notification, you'll know that you have a theory of family relativity for one or more of your DNA matches. We will even indicate what is the relationship, what is the theory that we came up with, the second cousin once removed, for example. But in order to see exactly all these goodies that we saw, the names of the people, go over the information, see the full view, that will require a subscription. That is correct.
Okay.
For MyHeritage.
Okay, and so is it a complete plan subscription? There's some other subscriptions.
Site subscription from premium will do the work.
Okay.
I will mention that even though we'll show you if you'll get just the site subscription, a complete plan, as you show here in your slide, provides both a site subscription and a data subscription. So do note that if you have a theory that's using one of our record collections, to view that record with all of its richness, that will require data subscription separately.
Okay.
So you can get a premium to see the theory and the information from the trees. And to get a little bit more information about the records, you'll need to have a data subscription.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Good. Thank you. So we're doing a 1 year MyHeritage complete plan as our first door prize here. And we'll say congratulations to Stephanie Campbell, who is live in the audience. Watch for an email from us soon, Stephanie, and congratulations. Now we'll do a MyHeritage DNA test kit. Ren, just go up to myheritage.com/DNA. Is that if we wanted to purchase a kit, is that where
Yep.
we'd go to? Okay.
MyHeritageDNA.com. Since yesterday, the company, the employees here are extremely thrilled. We're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, which is coming in a few weeks. So we're having a special sale for St. Patrick's kit. Is sold for $59 US at the moment.
Okay, so here where I live, anyways, we wear green on St. Patrick's Day, and I think it's this coming Sunday, maybe. I need to remember that. My daughter's really looking forward to it. But I thought I was going to ask you something about this, but now I can't remember what it was. So we'll go and I'll pick our winner here, and our winner looks to be here. Let me write your name down first. So here we go, Celeste Land. So Celeste, congratulations on the MyHeritage DNA test kit. And Kelly writes in saying, "Yep, it's on Sunday, and that's her birthday. So happy birthday to Kelly also."
Happy birthday.
Yes. Okay. So questions time then. So Ram, we've got some real good ones in here, and I'll just kind of go down the list and if you want me to switch over to your screen for any reason, you want to demo anything, that's fine. Just let me know.
All right.
So this was the one I was wondering about. So several people asked this, Ran. This one specifically from Teresa. Teresa has done her DNA on a different provider. She received the results there. Is it possible for her to move that information into MyHeritage to take advantage of these new tools?
Yes, absolutely. I think I said it earlier at the beginning of my presentation. One of the things we allow on MyHeritage is to upload your data if you've already taken a DNA test with another vendor, with one of the other companies that are selling DNA kits. You can take your data and upload it to us. We'll be happy to take it in. As Jeff is now presenting, there's an upload DNA data entry on the DNA navigation bar. You can also get there by going to myheritage.com/DNA/upload. And then there's a there's a nice tutorial that explains you how to export your raw DNA data from the vendor, from who you tested with, and upload it to us. This process is taking in between 2 to 3 minutes, depends on, how much you're putting into it, but it's a quick process. Once we have the file, it will take us in between 24 to 48 hours usually, sometimes a little bit more than that, depends on how many kits are currently being uploaded, and then the results will be available. And theories are also Theory of Family Relativity results are also available for people who have uploaded kits from other companies, again as a paid feature. Make sure when you're uploading your results, and maybe this is something I should have emphasized a little bit better, we are doing good job with finding theories, but it mostly depends on you. If you'll be able to build a tree, and a decent one, and add as many generations as you can, as many blood relatives as you can to the tree, provide full names and dates, facts, all these kind of things, that will increase your chances of receiving theories, because then there is more chances for us to be able to detect those individuals on other records or family trees of other MyHeritage members. So make sure that you're uploading it, but you're also starting a family tree on MyHeritage, or that you already have a family tree, and that the kit is associated to the right individual, so that we can come up with a good theory for you.
Okay, thanks so much, Ran. This question has also been asked frequently. William says, how frequently are theory of family relativity theories regenerated?
Yes, a very good question. So we've had our first launch about 2 weeks ago, and we are currently at the point where we're just after we were done with the celebrations, and we got back to our senses, let's say. We're starting to go over all of the feedback. We're looking at specific cases that people are reporting, and some additional information or capabilities or abilities that people would have wanted to have with the theory of family relativity. Obviously, the thing that comes up the most is, I want more, I want more, I want more. We obviously get that. So we're looking into different things that we can do. We will periodically run the algorithms to make sure that we also take all of the additional information that was added in between. So I'd say that we're, a couple of weeks or a little bit more than that till we do our second run, and see how the results look like and what had changed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now about AutoClusters, Kay is wondering, how often should we initiate or use the AutoClusters tool to be sure that that any new matches are included in that report?
So that's really up to your preference. We have users who are generating on a daily basis. Obviously, not much is changing from one day to the other. The beauty of AutoClusters is that it's not a standalone tool, right? It's kind of an entry point that helps you work with your list of DNA matches. All of the things that we're developing, we're trying to provide our users with the best tools that we can have, so that they can make better progress with their research and be able to come up with quick ways to understand how they are related to their DNA matches. These are all the features that I've shown before. So if new matches will come in, they might get into different clusters and be part of clusters. I'm personally running it every it was just released 2 weeks ago, but one of the perks of being the person who's working on that is that you can try them before they go live.
Yeah.
And I was playing with it. I was generating every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, something like that. I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to William's question. He says, I have theory of family relativity matches that are incorrect because someone else's tree is wrong. Is there a way to report or flag these kinds of things so that it doesn't show up as a theory?
Yep, so this is one of the things, as I mentioned on the question that was related to when are we going to run this again.
Yeah.
So we're currently gathering feedback, and this is something that came up quite often. Users wanted the option to reject or accept a theory. So currently it doesn't exist. You can add a note for at the moment on the match that you have with the theory which you think is faulty. And write to yourself, I've reviewed this theory already, and I believe it is wrong. And later down the road, we might add the option to reject the theory or make it go away or disappear.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Lewis's question, who says, I have 2 trees, one for each side of my family. Is there a way for me to associate my DNA with myself in both trees?
So the way it works on MyHeritage, there are 2 concepts. There are sites and there are trees. You can only associate an individual, one individual per site. So even if in the site you're running multiple trees, unfortunately you can associate yourself only to one of them. Or you can alternatively have a third tree which combines. There's a couple of things that you can do. One is that you can start a new site, and manage one site for the paternal side and one site for the maternal side. The differentiator will build the site, or you can have a third tree that groups together, that has all of your ancestors, all of your blood relatives on the same tree, and then associate yourself with that person over there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to Rhea's question. Is there a way to mark a match as already viewed besides making the note?
At the moment, there is not. We're thinking about doing something similar and perhaps even more advanced than that.
Okay. So, Rhea, stay tuned. Let's go to Michael, who says, does the process of accepting smart matches improve the strength of the global connected tree?
Can you repeat the question? I partially heard what you were asking.
So, accepting a smart match, does that improve the strength of the big tree?
Got it. The answer is actually no. And that kind of opens. There's something I want to say really about that.
Okay.
So when we started working on the big tree, we had to decide. We have all these billions of data points. Which ones are we taking and which ones aren't we? So we decided that every smart or record match that was rejected by a user, we're keeping it out. We're not using it for our algorithms. If someone came and intentionally told us this is wrong, we believe that there's no reason for us to take that into consideration. When someone's accepting a smart match, the score of that smart match doesn't change. We're leaving it at 70%. The reason, for example, like if the smart match was at 75 confidence, we're leaving it at 75. And there are some reasons why we've done that. One of them is because some people are just accepting smart matches without reviewing them thoroughly. We've seen that in several cases. And also, we wanted to still give you the option. The confidence level that we provide is based on an algorithm that we're using internally for the smart and record matches that looks at the names and facts that were added to the individuals and then provides them with the score. So this is what our algorithm suggests. And we're taking into Theory of Family Relativity only smart and record matches which were accepted or are still pending. Because we also know that a lot of users have a lot of smart matches and they are just left pending. So they are there, the results, the confidence levels are the one that we set for them. And it's up to you to look at them and decide what makes sense and what doesn't.
Okay, thank you. I'm hesitating on whether I should share this out loud or not, but I'm going to.
All right.
Sherry says, I worked for a software company for 25 years. Ran is the most personable and articulate programmer and developer person I've ever met as a presenter. I hope MyHeritage pays him well. So, in other words, what she's saying is, well done, Ran. And I was thinking too, Ran, you just get better and better each time you do one of these presentations. So, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Nice job.
We should definitely do this more often, and thanks again for the compliment. And it's my pleasure. To be really honest, we worked on that for like a year, right? So as there's a lot of excitement, right? When you're working on something, first you want to get it out as fast as you can, but you still want to make those final touch-ups and like fix those things and make sure that what people gonna get, they're gonna thrill them and make them, have the wow effect that we always want to have.
Yeah.
I'm talking now from my engineer product manager perspective, and it was so much fun working on that. We saw how much value and what is the potential. We really thought during the entire process, and we still think that this is truly a game changer. What I really love about it, I had various discussions about the feature while I was at Rootstack, is that it shows the strength of the community of users on MyHeritage. We see so many theories where the common ancestors are coming from a tree in the middle, right? It's not neither match A nor match B. The two DNA matches, they don't know who these common ancestors were. And some other guy who doesn't even know them, who built his family tree on MyHeritage, helped these two make a discovery, learn so much about their past, and he doesn't even know that.
Yeah.
So this is what moves me about this feature, why I love presenting it so much and talk about it, is because it really shows the strength of all of our users, everyone in the genealogy community, how we're working together, how we're adding more information, how we can help one another make discoveries. I think this is simply amazing.
Absolutely agree. And also what's fun about all of this is we can hear it in your voice that Rand Sneer, who is the product manager of all of this, he loves what he's doing, and you really believe in what you're doing. That makes it easy to come to work every day, I think. Let's go to Ian's question, who's asking about that percentage icon. It tells you it's 100% confidence or 70% confidence. That percentage number, how does the website come to that number? What things are being taken into account?
So this is basically what you see there is the smart or record match score that we decided to give it. These are algorithms that have been, MyHeritage has been around for nearly 16 years now. And since we've built our smart and record matches algorithms, we're always enhancing them and making them better. But basically the score is determined based on the information we get from source A and the information we get from source B. So let's assume for a second that we have a Rand Sneer on site 1, and then we have and I spell my last name with an I, and on the other site we have a Rand Sneer with double E's, for example, in the sneer. So that will probably take out some points, right? If we started at 100%, now the last name doesn't look exactly the same, right? Maybe it's not the same person. So we have algorithms that keep on evolving all the time. That's taking into consideration how people are writing the names, whether the birth and death facts are aligned, or whether the information is exactly the same, kind of the same, not the same at all. So this is how the score is calculated in a very high level, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. That's very interesting. Let's go to a question here from Joyce, who says, my DNA has been on MyHeritage for months, but I just added a family tree. How do I link my new tree to my DNA?
Very good question. And I would rephrase it to say, how would I link my DNA test to the individual in the tree that I've uploaded?
Okay.
But that's just because I'm the DNA product manager guy. I always think of the DNA first. If you'll go to your Manage DNA Kits page, You'll have the option there. You'll see all the kits that you manage on MyHeritage, both the ones, yeah, that'll be great if you can show that. So here is the Manage DNA kits, and here we can see the different, the various kits. Wow, Jeff, good job.
Yeah,
So
thank
here
you.
are all the kits that Jeff has on MyHeritage that he's managing for himself and his other family members. And if you can click on these three dots on the right for one of them, for example, and you have the option to reassign the kit to a different person, yeah, let's do that. Don't worry, we won't
Okay.
reassign it. We'll just show the demo. Can you please start typing a name that appears in your family tree, Jeff?
Okay, here's my
Wonderful.
wife.
So here, just type your name, and we'll just start showing you people from your tree that answer that criteria. And by clicking, don't click Save, Jeff, but if you click Save, then the kit will be reassociated, and then we'll take into consideration the ancestors of that person in the tree. So that's pretty much how you do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably mess things up if I click save, huh?
No, there's an X on the top right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All
You can
right.
always reassign it back to you, don't worry.
Okay, good. All right, good. Well, time for just a couple more questions here, Ann, and thank you. You're doing wonderful. Let's see. About AutoClusters, this was asked 3 or 4 times. Chuck says, is there a plan to allow users to adjust the maximum and minimum centimorgan values for the AutoClusters reports?
Yes, so I'm not sure if I've mentioned, but the AutoClusters feature that we launched on MyHeritage, we have done it in collaboration with a very nice Dutch guy who goes by the name of Evert Jan Blom. He's the person behind geneticAffairs.com. That's a website. And he started AutoClusters about, I'd say, 4 or 5 months ago. He launched the AutoClusters option on his website. And there you can choose a minimal and maximal thresholds. And I'll explain what these are in a second. So we've decided to, when we saw that it went live, we saw how many people were so anxious about it and so thrilled. And we said, all right, we got to have this ready, and we got to have this ready for Rootstack. And we worked together with EJ to develop this. We're also crediting him on the website. And we've brought it to MyHeritage for our initial release. And because we have a webinar planned for AutoClusters in a couple of weeks from now, we are doing something a bit different than what happens on Genetic Affairs regarding the maximal and minimal thresholds. And I'll explain about that in the webinar. But I guess what the question here is, we're setting different thresholds based on the amount of centimorgans, and minimal and maximal ones, for the DNA matches that we take into consideration. The reason that we're setting those is that it won't introduce too much noise into the results. What we saw in many cases that happens, and a lot of people are asking me, or I see different comments of, I generated my AutoClusters report and I can't see my first cousin or my father in the results. And the problem in that, with having very close relatives or relatively close relatives in the AutoClusters report, is that it kind of messes up the clusters. For example, if you saw in my example there, I had about 10 clusters that I was able to generate. Introducing close relatives, in many cases, will just merge those clusters together. Because if, for example, cluster number 1 was from my grandmother's side, paternal grandmother's side, and cluster number 3 was from my grandmother paternal side, now that I brought in a close family members for my father, for example, will match all of these people because he's related to all of them. So this is why we need to use those thresholds, and we're doing something that's kind of, we're automatically trying to adjust the thresholds so that we can come up with the best results for every user. It doesn't always work. I can tell you, coming from an endogamous population, that this gets more tricky because of a lot of inter-family marriages in past generations. We are trying to see how we can solve that. But what I would suggest or recommend at the moment is that, yes, if you haven't seen your close relative, there's still a way. So we were able to generate those AutoClusters, but go to the review DNA match page for the people from the clusters, from the table where there are links. You can quickly jump and look and see at the top of the shared DNA matches who you see there. and that can help you make better decisions. Unfortunately, we thought it's a better idea to exclude them for the AutoCluster report and serve them kind of like, as I said, it's kind of an initiator. It's kind of a first step to understand how they are related to you. So go to the review matches page and try to gather the information from there.
Okay.
I hope that's a little bit clearer,
Yeah,
and if not, we'll cover that in the next webinar.
Okay. Thanks so much. Bonnie is asking, do I know the date for the AutoCluster webinar? Yeah, Bonnie, just go up to the website, and it's right here on April 9th. So that's where you'd want to go and click on register. And then, Ran, let's do this for our concluding question of the day. This question is from Larry. Larry says, how long after a DNA test and tree are online does it take for that individual to see this new theory of family relativity in his matches?
Right. So we are, because we're using billions of data points, this is a process that unfortunately cannot happen live, right? To start offering theories. So there's a new tree, we need to bring it in and then recalculate everything all over. So we will be running it periodically, every couple of weeks to a month, I think.
Okay.
It really depends on what we see from people, how much they're loving it, how much they're using it, how much value it brings. So far, we're super excited of the results and the things we see, either in different blogs or online, or people writing to us.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any way that we can be notified when there are new theories in our matches? How does that happen?
Yes, we will notify users once we recalculate the algorithm, and if new theories are found, we will indicate that.
Okay. All right. Well, Ran,
All right.
thank you for this wonderful time together. Before we sign off, is there anything else that you want to share with us before we say goodbye?
I wanted to thank you again, Jeff, for having me.
Oh, yeah.
Still not tired of my Israeli accent for an hour and a half. I'm impressed. It's always a pleasure, and really it's a pleasure talking about these features. We're doing them with passion. We're loving working on these things. We love seeing the feedback and how we help people with their genealogical research. And stay tuned. There are a lot of more surprises coming.
Oh, very good. Well, now you're making me wonder, what are those? Well, we'll find out from Ran Sneer as they're made available. Thanks, Ran. We'll see you next month. And thanks to all of you, wherever and whenever you are around the world, for sharing part of your day with us. And remember, life is short. Do genealogy first. Bye, everyone. Bye, Ran.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.